Welcome to Porch Play Chats, sponsored by the American Association for the Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately shortened in a title to IPA USA. IPA USA is a USA affiliate of the International Play Association that's comprised of about 23 countries. And so the USA affiliate, as part of their efforts to promote play, has introduced these Porch Play Chats, which are conversations with people who are just as passionate about play as we are. I'm Deb Lawrence, and I'm president of IPA USA. And you can find all of the Porch Play Chats, and there's more than 150 of them. If you go to our website at ipausa.org, in that top right-hand corner, be a friend on our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and magically, on Monday morning, a new Porch Play Chat will appear in your feed. Joining me on the porch today is Lindsay Dzielski. Lindsay is our pop-up and play day chair. She's the one that will be doing, it was her wonderful idea to do a National Day of Play in September, which you'll hear more about later. But today, Lindsay's going to talk to us about how to merge adult space and child space in an environment. And so Lindsay's got a perfect example of her gorgeous backyard. So Lindsay, welcome.
Hi. So yeah, for me, I think it's important that we have that acceptance and comfortability to merge the two spaces together. And sometimes I think that it is also hard at times for adults to merge the two spaces, because how could you possibly fit both types of worlds together? And for us, we have a very short summer season in Buffalo, New York. So it's really about the kids being outside as much as possible, but also the adults being outside as much as possible. So how can we merge the two worlds together?
Mm-hmm. And so what was your plan when you began? And how has it morphed over time based on what you've done?
So the original concept within just our backyard was just a green open space, right? You can kind of see how large it is by the fence in the background. And there's not a lot of space to spread out. And I'm also a gardener, so I wanted to be able to have my garden space. I participate in garden walks throughout our city. So I open up the backyard for people to come see my pretty flowers, but I also have children. So it was a matter of figuring out, how do you put the two worlds together so people do want to come see the garden, but then I can also promote play and different ways to play by them seeing how we've set up the play. And really it started with obviously that blank canvas, and it was just piece by piece. And the way that I explain parts of the backyard is, this is my 10 years from now when the children are gone area, so where the trampoline is or where the climbing dome is, those are the areas that I can't do anything with right now. That is the space that's theirs, but I can fix the soil. I can put down the mulch. So in a couple of years, when that equipment is gone, now I have soil that will be ready for my garden. Mm-hmm. So it's really about just kind of looking at the space in a long-term manner, and what little pieces can I add now so it's there later for when their toys and their equipment's gone. And then another thing that we added, I'll see if I can show it a little. So behind me here is a mud kitchen. It's painted purple, so it goes with the scheme, and it has all the leftover pots and plates and spoons and things of that nature. And so for me, I can use it to wash my hands. I can use it to do some gardening stuff, but it's also the place for the kids to create their mud pies, their sand pies. They're really into whittling chalk right now. So it's like a pile of chalk that's being whittled, and then they make their own colored paints with it. But they have their space here. But then what I've done around it, and you can see with this little bed right here, it goes all the way around. And now that's also a cut garden. So visually, from the gardener point of view, from the adult point of view, I have a very pretty garden that has cut flowers with dahlias and gladiolas, but I also have flowers that are prolific, so the kids can easily pick them and put them on top of their pies, put them on top of their sculptures that they're creating, or in the sandbox.
Nice.
Again, we really merged both worlds together with the area for them to play and also the beauty that the adults want of the garden. And also same with like the running water. The water's connected to the mud kitchen through a hose. They have a spigot, they can turn it on and off. And it allows them to do what they want in a space that's allowed to be dirty, and allows me a space to kind of keep everything in one zone. Right.
Nice. And so I see the climbing structure. I see the mud kitchen. You talked about a sandbox. What else is, oh, the trampoline.
Yeah, we have the trampoline, we have
Oh, a climbing structure.
climbing dome with the wheels. We also have the fence. So a lot of people like to do the wooden fences where you can't really climb over. I think climbing fences is part of childhood. So our fences, so they can climb over the fence and climb on top of the fence. We also took leftover monkey bars and created climbing structures. But on top of those monkey bars with the climbing structures, I have vines growing. So the vines will slowly start to create their own aesthetically pleasing garden aspect with the kids' play area as well.
Isn't that nice? So if I'm a parent or I'm an early care and education program and I'm wanting to consider what I could add to, maybe I have just a climbing structure on my playground in a sandbox. So how easy was it? You don't have to buy a $1,400 mud kitchen from, I'm sorry, Kaplan and Lakeshore. You don't have to buy that. So what are some ideas for creating their own mud kitchen without having to spend all that money?
So we'll go for a walk.
Okay, we're walking.
Luckily, we just kind of cleaned it.
Oh, look at that. So any of you who have a parent who's a good handy person, here we go.
Yep. So it's just a garbage picked sink. We have the spigot. We had a hose underneath, but it has since it broke. So now it just drains right below it. And then we just have it was just a couple planks of like a decking board that we used. We cut the hole in it. And that's where it is now for the last few years. And we have kids all the way up to 16 who come and play on it.
Of course you do. Yeah. Oh, right. I remember
and then
the backyard mud pies at my grandmother's house. It was amazing. Yeah. I had drying racks where I could put my mud pies. I had mixing bowls to mix them. I had, I'm sure, tons of poisonous berries and flowers that I could decorate with.
And then one thing that we did this year was the sandbox was in a different location, but now we've put the sandbox right next to the mud kitchen. So now it's like they have their beach spot. And then we have, again, all the cut flowers. So it's still early in our season, but all these flowers are very prolific with their buds. So we'll have just tons of flowers in another few weeks for the kids to pick.
The other thing that I think we don't consider enough is, and one of the things that when I just got back from the IPA World Conference in Glasgow, every program that I went to, and many of them were outdoor programs, but even the one that was Reggio inspired in Florence, because I also went to Italy and went to visit programs. Every program was aesthetically pleasing, indoors and outdoors. Right. It was like, you know, Maria Montessori told us, you need to make the environment beautiful. Well, just the pictures of the one in Florence that shows you the view that children have and most of the time the children are outdoors in Florence. Right. They have an indoor space, but they freely move in and out and teachers zone themselves. What I thought was absolutely incredible is that one of their play spaces is an olive grove. Yeah. With, I don't know, 25 olive trees and big olive trees that they can run through and hide in. And it was just, it was truly an incredible, beautifully aesthetically pleasing. In Fort Williams, in Scotland, when I went to Cameron Sprague's
Mhm.
nursery, a 2 to 5-year-old nursery called Straymosh. When I went to Fort Williams, they had taken this plot of land, and I think Cameron told me, and Cameron, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure you said they had planted over the 10-year period, because they had one tree on the lot when they got there. They had planted over 600 bushes and trees
Yeah.
in that area, and it was beautiful,
Right.
beautiful. And so sometimes I think we think more, oh, we need to make it more, I don't want to say industrial, but I feel like that's what we're locked into. It's like
Mhm.
cookie cutter.
Right.
Everybody has a certain
Or
thing.
Instagram, you know,
Yeah. Oh yeah, or
Instagram looking. And it's not, I mean, you know, like here's the inside of our clubhouse.
Uh-huh.
It's, you know, we're painting it. The 6-year-old is painting it. This is what it's gonna look like. This is her space. It's her area to be creative in. She's playing, she's experimenting with the color, she's experimenting how to cover up the color, she's experimenting how it makes it look brighter inside now that she's painted it blue. So she's learning all these different color theory aspects without me teaching it to her, you know.
Right.
And again, we added like a little picket fence so it looks a certain way, but inside that space, it's theirs. You know, inside that space, they get to do what they want, and we can just add elements that will help with their creativity, but also make it look more of that aesthetically pleasing. So like on the cattle panel, that's right here,
Mhm.
right? We have cucamelons, and they're just like this fruit that the kids absolutely love. So by the end of July, that whole thing is going to be covered. So now they have something that they can pick and eat from while playing, and it's a healthy snack, right? But now they have like these different elements throughout their play that they can now incorporate. And all I did was just plant some seeds. Same with some of the plants that are in the bed. Some of it's just their like thyme, lemon thyme. It smells really pretty. It grows a lot. So now they're getting the sensory play along with the physical aspect of playing. And
So
I think that we just forget that we can add little things
Mhm.
and allow them to take things apart and give them their space while still having your adult space.
Well, and I think the other big piece I want people to recognize is it was really intentional. I just think of a program when they were faced with recognizing that they were too safe on their playground, that there was not enough risk on the playground to help children develop the way they need to develop. Not hazards, risk, big difference. And so they looked at their playground, and so something to think about. They looked at their playground and they said, how can we incorporate more risk here?
Mm-hmm.
How can we incorporate more risk in the sandbox? How can we incorporate more risk in that back area? How can we incorporate? Well, the same thing goes with what Lindsay's done in merging these two spaces. How can you incorporate those wonderful herb smells and flowers that smell that are not toxic? I mean, how many flowers are toxic? I mean, just watch for cats because there's a couple out there. Yeah. But, you know, so you're intentionally looking at the space that you create, that you have currently, and you're asking yourself, where would a mud kitchen live? I can go to Goodwill or ask parents to donate any pots and pans they no longer use. I can put a bucket of water over there if I don't have a hose connection. I mean, there's so much that we can do that.
And chalk with a plastic knife. I mean, we have, so Bailey is 6 and my son's 13 and his friends, and they will sit there for an hour and a half with a plastic knife, whittling away at chalk. And they come up with some amazing things. And then they did a whole contest as to which boat would float better. And it was just, they all had chalk, they whittled a boat, and now they're doing a contest with that, right? So they're going through the whole STEAM and STEM process while playing in a way that allows a little risk with the knife, right? It's a plastic knife still. But we're giving them the space to get dirty and to make a mess and repaint it, wash it off, or at some point they grow out of it and that space will now change.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so the other big piece that is that there's no adult direction on here at this playground other than here's your space. And they can follow their own interests, which is everything that children should be able to do. And what we did when we were children, we followed our own interests. No adults interfered with us. No adults even supervised us a lot of the time. And so I think there are some key elements in what people could apply in their existing space. If you're a parent in your backyard, what can you do in your backyard that would still be aesthetically pleasing to you, but functional for your child?
Mm-hmm.
And how can you create those spaces in an existing environment? Not that you, and again, please don't go out and spend $1,400 on a mud kitchen. So
yeah, and everything, you know, everything we've done has been scraps. And like, if you can see here, so this darker piece of wood, that was a scrap of somebody else's playground that was in their yard. So we just bought some more of the monkey bars, attached it to the fence, added some more, and now it's a play structure that they all just climb on and stand on and flip on, and they try different things out on. But we wouldn't have that if we didn't think of it.
Yeah, and it's not ugly.
Right.
I mean, and so these are the kinds of experiences that children need, and we need them to be outside, not on screens.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I love the clubhouse.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with how big your yard is, but I know that people have large yards, and the swing over there in the corner, or the swing that's over here on the play structure, all such rich opportunities for children to invest
And again,
in.
it's the plants too, you know, so like this is one of my favorites that we bring in, and unfortunately it doesn't live forever here because we're in Buffalo, but this is papyrus, and it grows huge. It will grow 6 feet tall, so the kids love it. And I mean, even I as an adult, I'm constantly touching it. It's a fun sensory play.
And so again, as we're thinking about what we can do with young children, both in our existing space, if we're in an early childhood program, in a family childcare space, Debbie Mays in, I want to say Arkansas, Debbie, I'm sorry if it's another state over there. But I want to say Debbie Mays, who did one of our speaker series back in 2021, did an absolutely incredible job with her outdoor space that was licensing was fine with it. But she had so much risk built into that outdoor space. And as Bev Boss talks about it, it's the illusion of risk, right? It's a ladder, a wooden ladder, where the one with all the slats might be laying like a foot off the ground, and children are trying to balance their way across it, whether they're crawling across it or they're moving across it. That's risk, but that's not a hazard.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's like, I'll joke with people on the street at times. I go, I'm the house with the log on the front lawn. And maybe I'll show you that too. But essentially what we did was we found a log, and it's 6 feet tall, or 6 feet long or so. And to me, what is it? You go in the woods, where are the kids going to go? They're going to go on the logs that are on the ground. Right. So we created in the front yard. It's a little hazy just because of the wildfire smoke.
Yeah, we've got Canada wildfire smoke on the East Coast. Oh, wow, look at that.
But so now we have in my mind, it's a nature garden. But it's also, the kids love it because now they're climbing on it, jumping off of it, sitting on it. My son eats lunch on it all the time. So I brought in that element of nature play just by throwing a log on the front lawn.
And think about how many you see on the side of the road, especially when we've had a big storm or something and people have had to have trees cut down. They've got all that wood out there on the street waiting for someone to come and pick it away.
And it is free.
So just think what you can do without spending a lot of money. You might have to use some muscle. You might need to borrow a truck, but I'm
Or the
sure,
teenagers on the street.
or teenagers on the street that say, help me put this in there. That's what
But
happened.
it opens up, if we can think outside of that manicured lawn, even adding the clover. So the front yard was full of clover. We've slowly transitioned the yard to clover. Yes, bees will go to the clover. So if you're running barefoot, there's that risk that you're going to step on a bee. But what we've done with our kids is we've taught them, what do you do? You got stung by a bee. What do you do? We showed them the plant to find that they then like mush up and put on the bee sting. So we gave them the tools to handle it. So last year, my then 6, she just turned 6, she'd step on a bee and she's like, she yell for a minute, run, find the leaf, and then she puts the leaf that will help her stop the bee sting hurt. And now she's got the tools to fix it.
Wow. And what is that leaf? What's that leaf?
Plantain.
Oh, a plantain leaf. Uh-oh. Okay, it looks like we lost her. Hold on just a second. So Lindsay's back with us. She lost her internet connection. So she's just going to talk to us about sort of some closing thoughts on how to merge that adult space and that children's space, and some things to maybe get you started in the process.
Yeah, and again, I know that I don't know where it cut off, but the plant that we use for the bee stings is a plantain. And it's considered a weed, but I've given them the power to address the bee stings if they happen, simply by showing them what to do. And I think that that's really important with the play, is that we don't always allow them to handle it if there is something that happens. We run to their need, and that kind of takes away that important aspect of the risk. Okay, there is the risk, something happened, how do you handle it? And I think that that's important, to give them that empowerment.
I remember, I'm so glad you mentioned clover. I remember I grew up in South Texas, right near Padre Island, and much of our green was clover. It was carpet grass and it was clover. And I remember just sitting out there. I don't remember bees, but I remember just sitting out there in the yard looking for 3-leaf clovers, of which I don't think found one in 20 years.
Exactly.
But it was so much fun just to examine them and to be there and to feel the sensory input. And so again, be thinking, what can I do? How can I bring more nature onto this playground? Because lots of the time, they're on those spongy surfaces, because that's what licensing tells us, or the playground inspectors tell us we need to have. So how can I take some of those logs that are free on the side of the street and bury them at different heights and different spaces in between them? So children are having to do different levels as they're walking across those logs, and they are having to navigate different widths between the logs. That's risky play. The logs can be, 6 inches off the ground or 8 inches off the ground. It's not dangerous or hazardous.
Yeah. And again, like to me too, I have very vivid memories being a young kid, walking around the block with my girlfriend Amanda, and we would throw the ball into somebody's garden because it accidentally knocked the flower off. So now we had a collection of flowers. Kids want to pick the flowers. That's why as adults, we get weed bouquets, right? Because the kids want to pick all the flowers, even if they're considered a weed. The kids don't see it as that. They see it as a beautiful flower. And planting certain flowers and plants that are prolific and will have lots of buds on them allows for the kids to have that constant loose part that they can play with and take it apart or smush together, or maybe they're going to try to rub them together, all the different aspects of those flowers and petals they now have access to. And then if you give them their own area, it's a whole new world, because now they can do it without being told, oh, don't pick my roses. Well, no, here's a whole space just for you. And those plants are rather cheap. like, so you can get them or grow them from seed, and they're very, very prolific. And then it just gives them that added element to their play. And I think that that's huge. And like I said, we have teens come over to our yard and they're in the mud kitchen. Even boys, 13-year-old boys hang out in our backyard so they can make mud pies.
And they don't grow out of it.
They don't.
If I had a mud kitchen, I'd be making mud pies because I have fond memories of doing that for hours in my grandmother's backyard.
Exactly. And all that we do, and the way that I look at it is it's just giving the opportunity to kids, and I hope that they see it and they take it. And then we have kids that come when our kids aren't home because they still want that opportunity. And I think that that's the important thing that we can do just as a person in a household. You just simply, maybe you threw some stones down on your front lawn and now they have to walk a spiral. Just invite those little elements.
And it's really interesting how we can get more play into children's lives. One of the play initiatives in Brazil has been, it's called Guardians of Play. And this is what I want to be when I grow up. Guardians of Play are elders who live on streets in neighborhoods, who provide materials on their front porch or materials on their front lawn, so the neighborhood children who may not have access to a park or another place to play in that neighborhood can come and play. And the response from the seniors, it used to be, oh, these kids need to get out of here, they're too loud, and then when the seniors went through this Guardians of Play sort of training session that was voluntary, they began to realize that the part that they had in contributing to a child's development. So it's a beautiful program with fabulous outcomes.
Yeah,
so sometimes it's
that.
just, oh my goodness, it was amazing. And there's a Porch Play Chat about it. It's with Janine Dodge from Brazil. One of the things that I think we need to look for is not what we can't do, but we need to challenge us with all the restrictions and all the standards and all the assessment systems out there. What can we do? And the one thing I always say to people is licensing will always say you can't do that. And my response as a director was always, show me where it says that.
Right. And I think that if you focus on that aspect of why it's okay, okay, you can't do this, but then you focus on all the positives of that element, you can show how that risk is okay. Obviously there's a difference of letting a 2-year-old climb a 8-foot ladder. That's not always a great choice, contrary to what my 2-year-old at the time thought she could do. But it's still, there are benefits to those things. And I think for adults, we need to, the way that I look at it is we start at home. What can you do just at your own house to incorporate play or be playful? Even if it's like during Buffalo storms, we can get it where if you take hot water and dump it on clothes, the clothes will freeze, and then you can make like invisible mannequins essentially out of frozen clothes. And like that's something that doesn't take a lot, and it had people laughing, and then incorporates that aspect of play. And it's just those little things. Maybe it is having the certain flowers, or it's having a stone labyrinth to walk through, or it is like you were saying, like some balls or other toys sitting on the front lawn, because I think those little elements are what inspire and spark it. Because I can't tell you how many people have come to our house, they see the mud kitchen and they're like, we have to go do this now. And they garbage pick, and then they send me a text message and they're like, oh, we garbage picked a sink today. And now they're so excited because now they can do this. And now they're realizing their kids are playing in that space that they never thought would have ever existed. And they're not touching the really huge, fancy $5,000 dollhouse clubhouse, but they're touching the mud kitchen and the pile of mud that they left next to it. And I think that we just need to remember that, and we forget that as adults.
Yeah, I think so. We're always saying what they can't do. instead of looking at what's possible. Lindsay, this has been wonderful as always. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Stay right there while I close this out. To learn
Okay.
more about IPA USA, please visit our website at ipausa.org. And until next time, keep on playing.